Yo, off the rip, today we're cracking open prison slang. Kite, fish, shot collar, on the bid. Where'd these words actually come from? You ain't ready. All right, listen up. On the inside, every fella's got a rank. And the words for who runs the yard go way deeper than you think. These three names? They got origins nobody sees coming. All right, our first word to decode, shot collar. Now most folks figure this came straight out of prison yards, some big tough guy calling the shots on the cell block. Wrong. This phrase actually comes from pool halls, way back in the early 1900s. In billiards, before you took a tricky shot, you had to call it, name the pocket, name the ball, or it didn't count. The dude who called his shots with confidence, he was the shot caller. Hustlers carried it into the streets carried it into the joint, and by the 80s, it meant the top dog running the show. But speaking of top dogs, there's a word for the biggest boss on the yard, and it came from a totally different game. Kingpin, the big boss, the head honcho, the one running the whole operation. You probably figure it's mob talk, right? Some 1930s gangster word? Nope. Kingpin comes straight from bowling, like the actual pins. Back in the 1800s, the center pin in a bowling formation was called the kingpin, and if you knocked him down, the rest came tumbling after. It was the most important piece on the lane. By the 1860s, folks were using it for the most important person in any group. And by the time Prohibition rolled around, it meant the boss of a criminal ring. Bowling pins, y'all! But the next rank ain't a boss at all. It's the freshest fella on the yard. Fish! That's what they call the brand new inmate, the fresh meat, the nervous fella who just walked in. You'd think it's 'cause they're slippery or 'cause they swim around lost. But nah. The real origin goes back to the 1860s. Sailors used fish to mean a green recruit. A sailor so new he flopped around the deck like a fish out of water. Useless, confused, flailing. When that slang hit American jails in the early 1900s, it transferred perfect. The new guy on the yard looked exactly the same way. Wide-eyed, lost, getting shoved around, stuck for over a century. But sometimes a fish needs to send a secret message, and the word for that one is straight up bizarre. Pool halls, bowling pins, and floppy sailors? These ain't tough guy words at all. They're just everyday stuff that snuck onto the yard. Stay with me, pal. Now here's where it gets juicy. How do you talk on the inside when everybody's listening? These next two words crack that code wide open. Kite! On the bid, a kite is a secret note passed from cell to cell, folded up tight, smuggled through the yard, hidden in laundry. You'd assume it's named that because it floats from hand to hand, right? Wrong direction. Kite is actually 1800s banking slang. Flying a kite was when you wrote a fake check, hoping it'd float around between banks long enough to cash before anyone noticed. It was a paper scam that traveled fast. By the early 1900s, prisoners borrowed the word for any folded paper note that traveled secretly through the system. Same energy. Paper that ain't supposed to be where it's going. But there's another word for sneaking stuff around, and this one comes from horses. Mule. A mule is somebody who smuggles contraband, drugs, phones, you name it, in or out of the joint. You might guess it's modern drug war slang from the 70s and 80s, but it's way older. Mule comes from the actual pack animal, that stubborn cross between a horse and a donkey that miners and traders used for hauling goods through mountains in the 1800s. If something needed to be carried somewhere risky, the mule did it. By the early 1900s, smugglers along the Mexican border started calling themselves mules, and the word walked right into prison talk. Same job description. But not every word in the joint is about sneaking. Some are about where you hang out. Check banks and pack mules! Y'all are getting a whole etymology lesson disguised as crime talk. 2 more acts coming. Stay locked in. All right, pal. Now we're talking about places. The yard, the cut, the spots every con knows by heart. But these spot names came from somewhere shocking. Old farms, alleyways, and a whole lot of history. The yard. Every prison movie shows it. That big open space where everybody hangs, lifts weights, plays ball. You figure yard was just made up for jails, right? Some official prison term? Nope. Total accident. Yard comes from Old English, geared, meaning an enclosed piece of land. Same root as garden, orchard, even barnyard. Farmers been using it for 1,000 years. When the first big American prisons opened in the 1800s, they had enclosed outdoor spaces for inmates to exercise, and the guards just called it the yard, like a barnyard. The word stuck, the meaning shifted, and now it's pure prison. But there's another spot on the yard, a hidden one, and the name for it is straight slick. In the cut. It means hidden away, off the radar, in a spot nobody can see ya. You might think it's about cutting yourself off from the crowd, but it ain't. Originally meant a literal narrow passage or alleyway. Comes from 1800s English where a cut was any path cut through bushes, hills, or buildings to make a shortcut, like a canal cut through a hill, or an alley cut between 2 row houses. African American vernacular English picked it up early. Prisoners carried it inside, and by the 70s, in the cut meant chillin' in a spot nobody else knew about. A hidden alleyway, but make it a cell block. Last act coming up, and the final word? It might be the wildest one yet. Barnyards and back alleys, y'all. These words walked 1,000 years just to end up on a cell block. One last word, and it's a heavy one. Final act, pal. One word that every fella on the inside knows, and its origin? Straight out of the courtroom, way back when. Bid. When somebody says they're on a bid, they mean they're serving a prison sentence. You'd swear that came from auctions, like bidding your time away. But it's actually older and weirder. Bid comes from the Old English word bidden, meaning to ask or to command. Same root as forbid and bidding. In old courtrooms, when a judge sentenced ya, he was bidding ya to serve time, ordering ya to do it. The sentence was the judge's bid, his command. By the 1900s, inmates flipped it. Instead of the judge's bid, it became your bid, the time you were doing. Same word, but now it belongs to the prisoner, not the judge. Talk about reclaiming a word. Stay with me. Quick round coming up next. Quick round, pal. Off the rip. Let's run through more yard talk. Stand up means a person who's loyal and won't snitch. From 1800s boxing, where a stand-up fighter took hits without backing down. Chow. That's prison food, but it actually comes from Chinese Pidgin English chow chow, meaning mixed up food, brought over by 1800s sailors. Screw. Old British slang for a prison guard. From the screws guards used to tighten on punishment devices in 1800s English jails. Solitary. Short for solitary confinement, but the word itself comes from Latin solitarius, meaning all alone, used by monks centuries before prisons existed. And shank. A homemade blade named after the shank of a leg bone, because early ones were literally carved from sharpened animal bones. Word up, that's a whole cell block of slang. So next time you hear somebody say they're a shot caller or on a bid, you know it goes back to pool halls and Old English judges. Stay stand up, y'all. Yo, off the rip, if this was stand-up content, hit that next video and stay in the cut with more etymology. Stay sharp, pal.